The truth about female desire is putting 8 women's sex lives under the microscope. These women have agreed to take part in a series of experiments designed by the world's leading sexual scientists to try and unravel the secrets of female sexuality. So far in the series, leading evolutionary psychologists have shown that women can tell how fertile a man is by watching him dance, having a good sniff, or holding his hand.
I'm getting into this now.
The women have discovered that they're turned on physically by a whole range of visual stimuli, including monkey sex.
I mean, I'm going to be shocked if at that point it comes off that, you know, I was aroused or anything like that by it, because I just found it quite funny.
And that consequently, physical sexual arousal is not the main cue for feeling horny.
No! I actually...
That's
wrong!
Kinsey scientists have proved that the biggest sex organ in women is the brain, and that you can turn a woman on by the power of suggestion.
There was no drug in any of them.
I flushed, but...
But tonight is the climax. We've chosen our partner, they've turned us on, and now we're going to shag their brains out. It's time to tackle the big one, orgasm. The scientists will investigate the difference between the clitoral and vaginal orgasm, whether the G-spot actually exists, and probe the blood and brains of women during climax to find out what makes it feel so damn good. All this to try and solve one of the biggest mysteries of female sexuality: why orgasm even exists at all. First up, we asked our 8 women to share their orgasms.
Sensational, relieving, enjoyable, fulfilling, excitable, original, unique, refreshing, orgasmic, sexy, pleasurable, relaxing.
Fingers clench, limbs lengthen, air is gasped. A lump in the throat, then a shiver down the spine. Pulse starts to race and the groin begins to pine.
The vibrations of electricity throb first at my legs and then spread all over my soft and supple skin.
Supercalifragile. I'm holding my breath. Listic.
The pulse begins to rise, the heart begins to race. Breathing becomes shallower and louder in your head, blocking out all external noises.
Listic. Listic. Listic.
Soon my breathing begins to quicken, but the temptation to let go is so near. I must resist. The colours of life rapidly change in my face and my all-wondrous blooming flower.
Gut-wrenching, heart-racing, leg-twitching, toe-curling.
Your mind switches off from everything around you until it's just you and your breathing, and the longing in your groin growing more and more intense.
Listic. Listic.
The inhalation, coupled with the forceful exhalation, makes me grip onto any nearby sheets of this increasingly wet bed.
Gut-wrenching, heart-racing, leg-twitching, toe-curling.
My nectar flows and arouses all my senses. I am so close, yet I urge myself to hold back.
Gut-wrenching, heart-racing, leg-twitching, toe-curling.
The honey slowly releases from my amrita, and the bud... I'm not finished yet!
Gut-wrenching, heart-racing, leg-twirling, toe-curling.
I'm there. Oh, yes. The rush is overwhelming. I let go.
Listic. Listic. Listic.
Oh, my God. Wait. The floodgates have opened, and there's no stopping the flow.
Expialidocious.
Ooh, I've come.
Volcanic eruption.
The waves and spasms continue, getting slower and slower, and less intense, like an earthquake shockwave stemming from the clitoral epicenter, until a feeling of complete calm and relaxation settles over you. And for a rare moment, nothing that's going on in your life, no stresses or upsets matters at all. Just complete contentment. Until the bastard farts and says, "Oh, it's my turn now."
Our 8 women know them and love them, but given that some perfectly healthy women never come, the burning question for former head of the Kinsey Institute, John Bancroft, is, why do women actually have orgasms?
The interesting controversy at the moment about women's orgasm is why they have them. For men, there's an obvious biological reason for an orgasm. It's associated with ejaculation, and ejaculation is necessary for reproduction. But for women, there's no clear reproductive reason for a woman to have an orgasm.
The first step in the journey to understand the purpose of orgasm is to look at what's going on in the body. That requires examining the physiological process that makes the heart pound and the head swoon. Dr. Pierre Boulou has come to SexLab to test what hormones are active during orgasm and what effect they have on women.
Hiya.
To do this, he needs an orgasmic volunteer.
Hi, can I introduce you to Helen, who's my nurse? It's quite clear that the process of orgasm itself involves, quite apart from the subjective sensation, a number of changes which occur in the body in terms of pulse, blood pressure, blood flow, and what we're hoping to discover from these studies is what are the other accompanying hormonal or stress hormone changes.
Thanks to the recent advances in technology, this will be the very first time anyone has ever measured all the blood hormones during orgasm with such precision.
We will be taking some blood samples at intervals when she's at rest, prior to any kind of sexual arousal. And in Andrea's case, the idea is that she's then going to arouse herself to the point of reaching a climax. And at the time of the climax, we're going to repeat a blood sample.
I just have serious performance anxiety.
And who can blame her? Nurse Helen will be sitting next to her, taking blood throughout the experience. Enough to put anyone off their stroke.
I didn't orgasm till late, until 22. And I thought I was queen orgasm, okay? And then you really have a clitoral orgasm and everything changes. When I first had an orgasm with a man, yeah, because I didn't. And I thought I was, and this guy said, no, you're not having clitoral orgasms. And there's a guy who's in university, this huge strapping guy, and he was down there forever. And it was actually probably one of the biggest orgasms. He must have been down there for like an hour. I was like, it's not gonna work. And it was like a treble 4. It was one of the biggest orgasms of my life. Like, it was just wave after wave after wave after wave. It changed my life. After that, I was just obsessed with orgasm.
Dr. Pierre Boulou has come to SexLab to carry out a pioneering study, the first of its kind, to accurately measure all hormonal changes that occur during orgasm. In order to do this, Andrea has volunteered to have an orgasm in the laboratory whilst having her blood sampled. No easy task.
None of it's okay, really. I don't know if it's gonna work. We'll give it a go.
Hi, Helen.
Hi.
You look
Hi, she says.
Did you do it? Did you reach it?
In 5 minutes.
Done! Round of applause.
No performance anxiety there.
I do. Oh my God, I can't believe it. I'm so impressed. I think I've moved into exhibitionism.
Andrea may be surprised by what she did, but Dr. Boulou was even more surprised by what was going on in her veins.
One might have anticipated that orgasm and climax might be seen as, far from being a stress, a very desirable event, and therefore the brain and the body might respond by a pattern of stress hormone response that would reflect that this was actually a positive experience, a non-threatening experience. And we were rather surprised to find quite the opposite, in fact.
Boulou reveals the secrets of Andrea's orgasmic blood.
Now, these really are quite remarkable changes. This one, adrenaline, comes out of a gland called the adrenal gland. And one of the things about adrenaline, if you inject it rapidly inside a vein, you get a very forceful contraction of your heart, like you get palpitations, and your blood pressure goes up, and you get this kind of feeling of fluttering butterflies, and as though you become fearful, okay? What surprised me about these results was, at the beginning of the study, both the noradrenaline and the adrenaline were completely within normal limits. It appeared that you were relaxed, you weren't particularly stressed, and you then excited yourself to the point of orgasm. And what you see here is at the immediately you reach orgasm, the changes in adrenaline, noradrenaline were really extraordinarily large. For example, the peak of adrenaline that you got was the kind of level that you might get during a heart attack.
Wow.
Okay.
Okay. You're okay. All right, I just want this last reading.
But these two hormones really have reached levels in the blood, which are those which you get during extreme stress.
Wow.
Not necessarily good stress, I mean things which are threats to your body. And as I said, a good
So am I going to
example-
die from orgasm?
Could it not apply to like extreme sport or something like
Yes,
that? Jumping out of an aeroplane.
That is exactly right. It's a kind of high that you get, you're talking about, a kind of hype and excitement. I have been studying changes in adrenaline, noradrenaline, in the human over a 20-year period under a vast number of different strains and stresses. But I have never seen a physical condition produce those kinds of changes which would have been said to be physiological as an orgasm.
There's no obvious reproductive explanation for this extreme adrenaline buzz, and Dr. Ballou is keen to repeat the study with a much larger sample size.
The other hormones that we were looking at, one of them is a hormone that comes out of the back part of the pituitary called oxytocin. Now, when you are going to mother children and you're having a baby, one of the ways the body actually copes with the process of delivery is to release this substance from the back part of the pituitary called oxytocin, because it causes contraction of the womb, the muscle of the womb, suggests that perhaps during orgasm there are contractions of the womb that might occur. And you can see that could be quite important in terms of perhaps enabling sperm to travel.
It's been suggested that these orgasmic contractions could aid fertilization, but since many women conceive without coming, it still doesn't mean that orgasm is necessary for reproduction. But oxytocin has another rather sneaky mission, providing a possible alternative function of the female orgasm, as relationship glue. Oxytocin's alias is the cuddle chemical, and after birth it helps make a mother bond with her baby. This hormonal hit is a potent love drug, and after sex it makes women feel giggly, affectionate, and bonded to whoever has made them come.
Why is that look more presentable?
Well done, you know, you did something really quite remarkable.
So remarkable, in fact, that Dr. Ballou is planning to publish the results in The Lancet, Britain's leading medical publication.
Good. Excellent.
The women found the results interesting, but after a week in the lab with little male contact, there was something even more fascinating about the doctor than his experiment.
Did you see his crutch? Big lunchbox.
Actually, I noticed it in there.
Big lunchbox.
I noticed that, can I tell you?
What?
I noticed exactly what you noticed. The first thing I noticed when I was sitting in the chair and he walks in, I was like,
Why? Why what?
Big
crutch. Big crutch.
I couldn't
Big
concentrate
lunchbox.
on that.
Some people have orgasms that are so intense that it's close to having an epileptic seizure, and they have a temporary loss of consciousness or awareness anyway. And if that is one extreme, then the other extreme is that it can be just a localized, pleasurable tingling in one part of the body and not much else. And then, of course, you've got everything in between those two extremes.
Writers, artists and poets have grappled with describing the Big O, and the women have been asked to try and paint theirs. Orgasm itself is known to light up the creative right side of the brain. Will Andrea's little seizure in the lab fire her imagination?
okay, this is my orgasm. Okay, so this is the actual orgasm right here in the middle. And everything radiates outwards. So this is the hot center of it. and everything comes out in colorful spirals. And then I wet this paper right here and damaged it with water to represent lubrication.
Gushage.
And actually, I just realized that kind of looks kind of vaginal too.
It does.
But so then it should really go that way.
Yeah, coming out.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that looks better.
Okay, this is better.
Yeah, we can really visualize it now.
These are the wings of desire right here, where you feel like you're flying out of your body.
Oh, yeah.
And these are the shooting things that go to your toes. And this one's for
Tracy
your
Emin
arm.
wants nothing with you.
This one's for your spirit.
all represent something.
That's orgasm.
Yay! So you've got the shape of the body.
Lovely.
You've got the little clitoris,
Yeah.
little lovebird. You've got the waves like spiraling outwards.
Yeah. Oh, great.
And they're getting like, they start off really big and then they get thinner and thinner and thinner until you just get the waves going to the rest of the body. And like they're quivering down the body. And then up here you've got the heart and you've got it pulsing. And like getting big.
Why did they put it
Oh my gosh,
that way?
that's amazing.
So this is the before. I'm all dressed up nicely. You're going out, had a good meal. You had your earrings on.
Earrings on.
You got
Got
your
my
earrings
braces
on.
on. Got my earrings on. You know, he started here, obviously. He has to start here for me, you know.
Go, girl.
And then we get to here, and it's all beware, danger, 1,000 watts of energy. So my hair's all messed up. It's all, you know, it's all go. You're hot. You see, my eyes can't see. And then I'm finished. I'm happy. I'm thinking of sun, sea, birds.
And what are you saying?
I'm saying, where are my earrings?
The women know full well what an orgasm feels like, but over the years debate has raged amongst scientists about where this feeling actually starts.
So the principal myth during the 20th century about women's orgasm stemmed from the work of Freud. Freud's view was that the vaginal orgasm experienced during vaginal intercourse was the mature, appropriate, normal orgasm for a woman, and the clitoral orgasm was an immature stage in development for a woman. And this was a great example of how a sort of patriarchal culture really determined that a woman's sexuality should fit into the needs of the man rather than the woman.
Given that only 30% of women come through thrusting alone, was Mrs. Freud faking it?
Does anybody here think that I have to say, like, I can have incredibly intense, I thought I was orgasming, but I do have really, really intense sensation from sex, like to the
almost
point
too
where
good
I can
and
still
you
get
have to
like
stop,
shaking and everything. But then the clitoral orgasm is still a step above. But does anyone here think they have vaginal orgasms?
Yes, I do.
Really?
I do. It's different. I think it's different.
Is it
too.
good?
I think it's good, but maybe not as good, you know. And I do have them, but you know, clitoral, I think, you know, is
me,
very
for
good.
me,
Unless it's an energy spot.
Yeah.
See, I do, and I wouldn't say it's better than the clitoris orgasm.
It's just
It's
different.
just different.
Yeah, it is
and if you
different,
can
yeah.
merge the two, then whew, you're
Well,
on your way.
what I've got, that's my that's the next frontier.
Don't you think that a lot of women think they're orgasming? Like my girlfriend, we had like a 3-year debate. And I'm like, you're not orgasming. And she's like, yes, I am, yes, I am. And it went on and on and on. She finally got this new boyfriend, and then she came to me, and she's like, she calls me, oh my God, oh my God. And then she became obsessed with and before that, she never masturbated. But she had great orgasms in sex. And I was like, I have a suspicion that you're not. And we had a big fight. But anyways, she became obsessed with masturbating.
Why, just because was it how she described it?
Yeah, and the fact that she wasn't, because I went through the same thing. I wasn't very much into masturbation, and I thought I was having huge vaginal orgasms, and I was a queen orgasm.
It would seem that the clitoris, with its 8,000 nerve endings, is without contest the orgasmic on button for most women. Earlier in the week, Dr. Deng took the first ever 3D pictures of an engorged clitoris. The results revealed that the clitoris is remarkably similar to the penis. This is because the clitoris and penis develop from the same building blocks in the fetus. The little love bud that most women know and love is just the tip of the clitoral iceberg. Hidden inside are long, sensitive arms surrounded by spongy erectile tissue that extend into the pelvis and wrap around the vagina. So it appears that the female orgasm is a biological quirk, an echo of the male orgasm and a symptom of the fact that both the clitoris and penis develop out of the same embryonic reproductive tissue in the fetus. It's only the action of the male hormone testosterone that turns the embryonic clitoris into the penis.
The clitoris doesn't have any reproductive function. It's there because it was there in the beginning, and there's no particular reason to get rid of it in development. So I think it's one of the bonuses that a woman has. Women end up with a clitoris and the capacity for orgasm, which they don't really need for reproduction. And men end up with nipples, which they don't need for reproduction. And in that respect, I think women got the better deal.
The similarity of the sexes in the womb also provides clues to the nature of the possible holy grail of the vaginal orgasm, the G-spot. Recent research has revealed that the G-spot may be a leftover in some lucky women from the tissue that develops into the prostate gland in men. For many women, the hunt for this biological anomaly has become a frustrating mission.
I want to know where my G-spot is.
Have you been able to find your G-spots?
Nope.
Ever?
I've tried a few times.
Yeah, it's kind of difficult.
Sex therapist Dee McDonald gives Julie some handy hints.
Really long fingers.
I can't find it.
I can just get it, but I can't manipulate it that much without getting really. Yeah.
I've
Is
not
it
got it
forward
myself.
or back? It's forward. It's
Like
against
that way.
Yeah, like
Thing
you
is,
just
I've
imagine
never
you're
done it
hitting your
myself. I
belly.
always know how to direct someone else to
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It is easier with somebody else because if you're putting your hand in and you pull your finger forward, you can generally find it like that. But it's difficult to put your own hand. Yeah, there are.
Everyone needs a hand.
As a lesbian, Kaz is perhaps the most qualified G-spot explorer.
I don't know if it's the same for most women, but with a couple of women, it's like with a few women, it's been the same. It's kind of, it feels like, it's kind of like that. But so there's a sort of a middle bit, if you know what I mean.
Little
so it kind of
ridges.
goes like that.
Yeah.
So that's how I know that I've got it.
But it's actually it's the tissue around your urethra as well. So, it's forward.
So you need somebody else to do it.
So ideally.
If Julie finds her G-spot, she's going to be surprised to find an even more masculine experience in store: ejaculation.
Have you found yours? Did you find yours?
Yeah.
Do you mind
Did
saying
you?
what it was that she was doing?
No, I had like all this liquid came flying out.
to say, did you just splash on
Yeah.
Did you
So you
And it was the most amazing feeling.
We won't talk about
It
cushion.
came flying out, and it was the most amazing feeling. It was like different than a regular orgasm.
with someone there?
I was with someone else, and I was so freaked out that I never talked to them again.
Were they
And then, no, they said it was a G-spot thing, and I was like, what are you talking about? And I was really embarrassed that a guy knew more than I did, and then I read about it.
Yeah, no, I've had that happen.
Yeah.
I want to find it by myself.
And it feels really weird when it happens
It's
as well. It's
kind
kind of like...
you can find it by yourself, but you can't have the actual orgasm by yourself, really, because it has to be manipulated and.
Yeah.
It's like you might almost feel like you're gonna pee, but it's not
what it
like
is.
that.
That's
but
when
then
you get kind of like...
For
you
me,
can't get
the
embarrassed if you don't
yeah.
know what it is, because
I
you
probably
really
just
turned on.
the difference is this. It's like for me, with the clitoral one, it kind of spreads out, but with a G-spot orgasm, it's like you're being pulled out, like this way, like.
That's a really nice way of describing it.
Yeah.
The idea of female ejaculation is an extremely controversial one. There are a lot of scientists who actually dispute the whole idea of it. And I think that there are lots of women who do ejaculate, but they do consider it to be a negative thing and something associated with urinating, and it's dirty.
Before the week started, Dee sent some ejaculate for analysis to try and prove that it isn't orgasmic incontinence. The liquid doesn't come from the bladder, but from the female equivalent of the prostate gland.
We did another bit of research here and sent off some fluid for testing in the lab. Urine, ejaculate, urine, 3 samples which were sent away unmarked. This was from the same person over a fairly short period of time. The results that came back were, there were 2 urine samples which were very similar, and the third one, which was actually the ejaculate, had PSA levels. So these are chemicals that are only produced in the prostate, okay? And that was about sort of 10 times the amount that was in the other 2 liquids.
What is that?
It's prostate-specific antigens is the real name for it. So what that leads us to believe is that it's being fed in from what is probably the female prostate.
I think the most likely explanation for female ejaculation is that some women have a degree of glandular development around the urethra, similar to what men have, which produces fluid during sexual arousal, as happens in men. Some men produce quite a lot of fluid which leaks out of the penis before ejaculation. Fluid, rather than leaking out of the woman's urethra, gets contained, and then during orgasm, when there are muscle contractions, it gets squirted out.
If you are freaked out by gushing, the G-spot definitely
I
has
am,
a
but
lot of fluid.
I want to gush. I do
Look
want
at
to
the
gush.
G-spot, tons of
I want to know what
fluid.
it's like.
Yeah.
I just want to find it, and then my boyfriend can do all the work. I just want to find it.
We've got an hour off. I think we should all go into our trailers and try and find our G-spots.
So it looks like the mystery of the female orgasm is largely down to male and female shared development. The bigger question is, why do humans have them at all? To find out, we have to understand what's happening inside the brain when we come.
Penetrative sex. Which position gives you the most kind of...
What's your favourite position?
I know what mine is.
What's yours?
Do you want us to do a demonstration and you can show us where to sit?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I'll do
Okay. Right, you lie on your back, and Jules, you lie on top of her. You have your legs apart. You have your
Spread 'em,
legs in
baby.
there. Right, you slowly lean back and sit on your bum. As she slowly leans back, you slowly lean forward and sit on her here, and then you bring your hand up here and you follow it.
Oh, that's a good one for male and female as well.
And there you go, my favourite position. Well done.
If you then there and you bring that leg up round a bit like that, so you can then go in like that. Oh! It's one hand like that, and you're like.
Yeah, because you don't see him either. So
and then he can go around like that. You've always got to have a bit of that. All the way.
And then you go like this. And it's on the side. Yeah.
Sorry, do you want me to come here?
I go, yeah, one leg over.
I feel like I'm 5 and it's dirty and it's...
Well, it's lush. Did you enjoy that, girls?
Yeah.
The spoons
Good for me. How's it for you? I need a cigarette now.
The media are bombarding men and women with messages about sex of mixed quality, I would say. In recent times, there has been a lot of attention paid to orgasm in women, and this could be leading to women feeling under pressure to have orgasms or have them consistently and predictably.
And also sometimes if you've been having sex and they've come, and then it's a case of, you know, then they're messing around with you and stuff. It's sometimes the pressure.
Yeah.
You're just there thinking they're trying to, you know, so that we both do it, but there's that pressure, and actually it can wind you up even more. You've had the most amazing time messing around and relaxed, and yes, you haven't, but they have. But if suddenly it then gets turned on you and then become really kind of wound up and gotta come kind of thing.
Please them as much as, well, probably more
So,
than
yeah.
you.
Yeah. Well, I think they take it as a personal, you know, thing against them if they don't make you
There's a
come.
lot of guys like that, and that's why women fake it. That is why, because you get so tired.
Oh, who fakes it?
That hands up, who's faked it?
But not with my current partner.
Sometimes you can have great sex and have a really good time messing around and stuff, but you don't necessarily have to have the big O at the end of it.
I just feel fulfilled whether I have an orgasm or I don't.
Wouldn't you feel like you were going into mourning if you lost your orgasms? I was just thinking
Well, I think
about it.
knowing what it feels like.
The
if
thought
you
of never
had
having an
one.
orgasm again, I think I'd get really upset. I would miss them like a little friend. Seriously.
I
Not
know.
just that, I'd be gutted.
What would be the purpose of life if you can't come?
Just give up.
I think sex, now that you know that you can orgasm, sex is great. But to know that you'd never have one again, sex will really become a job then. And you would no longer enjoy sex.
There's a percentage of women, maybe 10%, who never experience orgasm during their lives. We don't know why. And overall, there's considerable variation amongst women in how easy it is and how frequent it is that they experience orgasm.
Oh, that's a massager.
This is similar to the bottom.
What is that?
The most reliable way to get there is to go solo with something that has been custom made to tickle your fancy.
Well, I really wanted one of these. A vibrating duck.
What man can compete with something that buzzes, whirs and pulsates the parts no penis can reach?
I think this would be good for it. This is G-spot, right?
You're meant to rock it, and that's meant to give you the sensation of your G-spot and your clitoris. Oh, Julie, you should take this home with you.
Dee McDonald has come to talk to the women about their buzzing buddies.
Some people like using toys for masturbation and some don't. So
I can only come using toys. I can't orgasm without. No.
Really?
Yeah.
I prefer
like
that
a good old hand.
over oh yeah, I'd rather do it.
Maybe. But yeah. But I've had fantastic orgasms using the rabbit.
The rabbit, really. So
I mean, I spent about a week in my house once I
When you
discovered
first
that.
got it.
I mean,
You were like Charlotte.
yeah, no, really. I actually had screaming orgasms that I've never screamed out before. I mean, it's fantastic. It's broken now. It's crazy.
Well, actually, I mean, women used to go to the doctor for masturbation purposes, but it wasn't called masturbation. I mean, to have an orgasm, really, because
The doctor would.
the doctor would do the job. The doctor would do the job. Yeah, this was the end of the 1800s, I suppose, around there.
I would have loved to have been a doctor.
Well, they apparently, because women were suffering from hysteria, so they would go to the doctor, and how would they cure hysteria? But the doctor would, in a medical way, have to.
Manual manipulation could take over an hour, and the first vibrators were invented, presumably to spare the doctors from repetitive strain injury.
This one here is from 1909.
Oh my
and it's just amazing.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
You see?
How does that work?
Well.
That spins around that way?
And if you have a look at the instructions, it's called a vibratory massager. Okay, and it's got all these different little heads on it.
How cool. What do the instructions say it's for?
They say it's for massage in various places. But I mean, you'll find now, even today, those there, they all advertise them as massages. They don't say, hey, this is a vibrator for having some kind of sexual pleasure.
Check this out, the advertising thingy. The Arnold massage vibrator. It's a necessity in every home. It means health.
And happiness. Orgasm is a paroxysm of pleasure. And scientists are keen to discover what happens in the brain that makes this flash in the pants feel so fabulous.
Orgasm is a sort of cataclysmic event. In general, you've got some sort of discharge taking place in the brain. So sends messages down the spinal cord to affect sensations in other parts of the body. You really understand very little about the basic mechanisms underlying that.
To find out more, we have to leave the sex lab and go to Holland, where scientists are utilising the very latest imaging technology to detect what happens in the brain during orgasm. Hannah has volunteered to be the first British woman to have her brain scanned for this pioneering study.
I'm sure you get endorphins from masturbating anyway, and I find that I'm addicted to that from it, the fact, my well-being after it. As opposed to, you know, I'll have an orgasm or whatever, but the feeling of well-being after it is far greater than the orgasm. And also if I'm maybe feeling a little sad or a little anxious, I'll go masturbate and I'm sorted, I'm fine. If I start off in the morning with sex and my brain is constantly focused on sex all day long, I'll get nothing done. For me, it's just like, right, when am I going to get it next? What time is it now? Right, I've waited an hour, it's time for it again. It's almost like an addiction to it. The feeling, the heightened senses, your blood racing through your body, and it's just like, where am I going to get my next kick?
The brain behind the brain scans is Professor Gert Holsteger, the world authority on brain activity during orgasm.
We are all addicted to sex in such a thing that we are always interested in doing sex all the time. For normal people, that's all the time. You don't do it because for obvious reasons, but it is always there. So if you call this an addiction to sex, yeah, but then everybody is addicted to sex.
Holsteger wants to know which areas of the brain are activated by orgasm and what are the consequences of this activity. The first stage of the experiment uses magnetic resonance imaging to obtain an accurate 3D image of Hannah's brain. This highly detailed anatomical model will allow Holsteger to map out which parts of the brain are affected by orgasm. The next stage of the experiment takes place in a PET scanner, which will reveal changes in activity in Hannah's brain during sexual arousal. The tricky thing with PET scans is that the subject must remain motionless, in particular their head. In order to come, Hannah is going to need more than a little help. Enter her fiancé, Johnny, who has the awesome task of manually stimulating Hannah's clitoris to orgasm.
I don't think it's the most arousing or romantic scenario to perform, but, you know, yeah, prepared to give it a go.
As you can see, here's a scanner, and you're here with your head, because then we will push it over here, and then you will be with the head here for 1.5 or 2 hours. And you have, that's very, very important. It's absolutely crucial that you keep your head still. Yes. Because if you don't keep your head still, we get fuzzy pictures and we cannot use them. Okay. Not used. And okay, so and the stimulator will sit over here, and then sometimes comes up and then we do the stimulation. And the stimulator is extremely important, you know. Yes, absolutely. Bad stimulator, no results. Good stimulator, almost always good results.
Man. Oh, the pressure.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
I am quite nervous. It takes a lot to get me nervous, but I am quite nervous. Just all the machinery, and I think quite a few people being in the room, and the pressure on my poor boyfriend John as well. I'm quite worried for him.
It's quite an honour, I suppose, and a huge responsibility, really, at the end of the day. I'm quite nervous, really. I hope I can, obviously, don't get stage fright, and all in the benefit of science, really, so I hope I do well.
They have every reason to be nervous. Hannah's blood needs to be infused with radioactive water, cooked up in the sealed lab next door. But to prevent her from glowing for weeks on end afterwards, it has to have a very short half-life. This puts the pressure on Johnny. There's only a 2-minute window in which to get the scan, and therefore to get Hannah to come. Hannah's head is strapped up to stop her thrashing about in the throes of ecstasy, and wheeled in with laser precision. The stimulator mentally limbers up for the task at hand. Success is in his fingertips. The radioactive infusion is ready to go. Johnny has got 2 minutes to get Hannah howling with delight.
Are you? No, that's not good.
I just don't feel very aroused.
Just enjoy it.
Lie back and think of Wales.
Okay.
What finger are you using, by the way?
My index.
Pointer.
Time's up. Did arch stimulator Johnny deliver the goods?
We almost got there one before, and then he told us to stop,
and then he stopped, and I was kind
of
of like, well, he didn't even say stop, did he?
He told me to stop.
But of course I had my eyes closed, and I wasn't allowed to talk. I wasn't allowed to talk. I couldn't look or anything, so I was kind of like, huh, what's going on here?
it's pretty mechanical kind of thing, you know, you just like, it's on demand really, so it's quite hard to kind of reproduce the goods really, as I'd say.
A completely unsexy environment as well.
No doubt.
Yeah.
But we enjoyed it.
It was good fun, wasn't it?
Despite the difficulty of climaxing in a lab, Holsteger has managed to successfully scan a handful of men and women.
Most people always think that female orgasm is totally different from the male orgasm. But it's not true. I mean, according to our findings, it seems that the male and female orgasm, the time, the brain activation during orgasm is the same. We found it is really, the brain is almost exploding in certain areas during orgasm, as you can imagine. It's really very, very active. So what actually happens during orgasm is that this extreme activation of this region containing a lot of dopamine. We have the feeling that dopamine is an important chemical that plays an important role for our feelings of our good feeling, because the good feeling is the reward feeling.
This all happens in the so-called reward centre of the brain, the ventral tegmental area, which is activated during orgasm, delivering a warm suffusion of pleasure. But Holsteger's most astonishing discovery is that the hit of dopamine you get when you come is the equivalent to a shot of heroin. On the left is a scan of a heroin hit, and on the right the moment of orgasm. There's little difference.
This is the strongly activated center, which is also very activated during cocaine and especially heroin usage. So this is the region that everybody wants to have activated, because then you get this feeling of a reward.
Drugs like heroin trick the brain into a massive release of the feel-good chemical dopamine, which also fires off to a lesser degree when we eat or drink. Acts that are essential for our survival.
Sex, of course, plays an important role in the survival of the species. And if you do it, you get a reward. Like if you have a good dinner, you eat because you get a good feeling about it, drinking and all kind of other things also. And it's also true for sex. And for sex is very important because it costs a lot more energy than, for example, eating. So it gets a very important reward.
In the end, the female orgasm may help conception. It may make women bond with their partner. It may just be a product of our shared embryonic development. But it's without doubt the sugar coating to make us reproduce. It ensures that we seek out sex in the same way that we seek out other essential survival acts, like eating and drinking. Back at the lab, it's the end of a week of scientific endeavour, and these 8 women have discovered that the secrets of their sexuality are driven by a host of unseen forces. 7 scientists ran tests for 7 days, but one man was there all week, probing the women's minds and bodies to see what really turns them on. Kinsey scientist Eric Janssen.
So, this is where it's all going to take place. I don't think I've ever run so many studies, so many experiments in a week time.
Eric ransacked the Kinsey porn collection and played the women a selection of choice erotica, from hardcore action to monkey business. To the women's surprise, their bodies screamed yes, yes, yes to everything, even though their minds were less than impressed.
What I found absolutely fascinating was the experiment that showed that the female's brain isn't actually connected to the female genitalia. There's that, old saying that men think have got their brains in their pants. And actually, scientifically, it's true, because there is that connection, whereas women don't have that connection. Their brain's very independent from what's going on down there.
Eric showed that to prepare the body for the potentially harmful act of penetration, women become physically aroused by a wide variety of visual stimuli, even if mentally it leaves them cold.
What we found out is that women, no matter what it is, if it's some sort of sexual scene, we automatically come aroused, even though we tell ourselves that we're not getting aroused. We can't actually control what goes on down there. And although it was hilarious and we all joked about it, I think every single girl had a bit of a rise when it came to the VPO because of that.
Having children is a potentially high price to pay for sex, and women have a more dominant mental filter than men to assess each sexual encounter.
The reason I wanted to be a part of the whole exercise was because I was concerned about the fact that I didn't have a high sex drive, and wanted to know, was there any physical reason, or was there anything that I could do to improve that? My husband's got probably a high sex drive and I've got a low. If it doesn't happen, it's all good with me. We can just kiss and say goodnight and I'll be fine.
Yeah. The women have learned that this mental screening of physical arousal means that the female libido is often lower than a man's.
I think I would go home with that confidence that I'm doing all that I can do, just actually enjoying sex the way I have always enjoyed it, the way I like it, and not really be bothered by what I think I ought to be doing. So just doing it the Carleen way.
I think a really unique aspect of this week is the combination of having a group of women together, not only having different experiments and so on undertaken, but really discussing in depth their own sexuality and their experiences. And as far as I know, this has not been done before.
It's been very freeing, because because it's all in the open now.
What kind of things do you fantasize about?
I have, for example, being abducted by aliens. And
Really? Okay.
Lay down on a table with all these aliens. I think it's great that I've had this opportunity, because I was brought up kind of really conservative, and it's nice to it's kind of like a release to just be really free. And I think that sex should be joyous and fun, and there should be no shame. So that's really cool. I feel I feel kind of opened.
What we've become aware of is that there's a lot we don't understand about women's sexuality. I think one of the good things that may come out of this current phase of interest and controversy is that we will learn more and that women will benefit from that.
It's obviously a very sensitive topic, sexuality. It's a very private topic. It's a very personal topic. Sex researchers respect that, but in order to deal with all kinds of problems that society deals with, including sexually transmitted diseases, HIV, AIDS, unwanted pregnancies, teenage pregnancies, etc., we have to understand more about the determinants of sexual behavior. And so this research is not just fun and interesting, it is extremely relevant and important to our understanding of how we work. It's time for me to say goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you very much. We're going to shake hands.
All right.
Yeah. Well, it was fun. We learned a lot, didn't we?
Thank you very much.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you so much for helping me find out about my body.
That was fun.
Thank you. Just knowing how a female body works and how complex it is, and knowing that no matter what happens or how I feel or what stage I'm at with my own, sexual levels or love life or anything, that nothing's wrong with me, that everyone's completely different, and depending on what stage you're going through in life, it's going to affect the way you are when it comes to the opposite sex. And no one can say, oh my God, there's something wrong with me because I'm not doing that, because it's just such a complex thing that you can't possibly think that you're abnormal.
Passion, guilt and cold turkey. Women behaving badly on Wisteria Lane. They're Desperate Housewives tomorrow at 12:20. Next tonight, it's Viva Liberty for a chap just wanting a bit of a break.